welcome to this episode. I've got a couple questions for Jay that have been on my mind and that have been questions that many entrepreneurs have been asking me about their health, performance, their purpose, and many other things at the same time. So I thought, what better timing than asking Jay herself in person? So the first question I have is, what do you find gives guys the most amount of stress and anxiety day to day?
I would say it's living in their ego and comparing themselves to others and to some expectations that society imposed on them. So what it does, it doesn't allow the person to evolve and develop as the man he could be, and while trying to fit into that society's mold and not fitting and feeling inadequate, I would say that would be the biggest source of stress, because if you stay grounded with who you are, if you go with the flow, it just makes life a lot more frictionless, not effortless. You will still have challenges, but that friction between who you feel in your soul you could and you should be and what society expects of you, that gap, if it's not there, you actually spend a lot more energy on fighting within yourself. And so you have a lot more energy to work on yourself, your health, your business.
Yeah, I like that. And I think one thing that people think is when they find their purpose, and it can be done in a couple different ways, but when they're looking for their purpose, they sometimes go about it the wrong way. They go about it in a way that's a checklist of something they should find or something that they should do. What is the best, I'm sure everybody is different, but what have you found to be the best model that people can adopt to find what their purpose is? So day to day, it feels like they're getting close to what their goal is, or they're excited to wake up during the day, opposed to this ongoing lingering feeling of just floating in the abyss with nothing to be excited about.
Yeah, well, the mistake that most people, just as you said, the mistake that most people make when looking for the purpose is they think that it's an actual checklist. It's like a goal to check off, but really it's a process, and it's a process of you living your life in a certain way. And it's a pretty simple blueprint that works for everyone because it's universal. So it goes like this: there is a purpose, a higher purpose for you as a person to realize in this world. However, as you are right now, you're not quite there yet. So it's your ultimate expression as a person. And for that, you need to train yourself up. You need to develop yourself into the version that can do it. So it's the next level when it comes to maturing as a person. You know, when, say, we expect adults to do certain things that teenagers or kids can't do because they are not quite there yet. So when you think about it this way, once we reach our adulthood, there seems to be like, there is nothing beyond that. Because for a kid, he's going to develop into a teenager is going to become a young adult and an adult. But for an adult, it's like, okay, so this is the dead end, which is not true, because the next step in our adulthood is experiencing ourselves spiritually as the true being that we are, half divine, half mundane. And so living your purpose simply means reaching that next level of maturity that encompasses your spiritual core and serving the world from that place. And where most people get stuck is that they try to gauge or guess what their greatest contribution in life would be without actually reaching that stage. So it's a little bit like, who are you going to be when you grow up? It's very rare that the answers are accurate, because a kid can't really comprehend the possibilities of himself or herself once they grow up. And so likewise, for the person who is just starting off on his journey, it's really hard to answer who he's going to be when he grows up spiritually. So the methods that I teach, the system that I have, allows you to mature spiritually in the fastest time possible and saves you time. And from that place, you can now map out, and I have the tools to help to map out what your greatest contribution, aka your purpose and your greatest impact and income in the world could be.
I love that. And I think a lot of people sometimes get it reversed because they think, well, I just want to make that money. I just want to get that relationship. And then, once I'm 50, 60 years old, well, then I can focus on legacy. Then I can focus on purpose and impact and everything. Why is it more important to do the reverse? Because I know you speak a lot about that when you do these things, the money and everything else, those external things that people are after, more particularly when they're younger, will just come as a result of that. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Yes. So there are different types of mindset, and there isn't a one size fits all. So there are certain people, especially from the older generation, who do think that way, and for them it makes sense. And I don't think people should be forcefully convinced to adopt the ways that they don't feel right for them. So if you feel that's right for you, go and explore that. Because if you try to follow someone else's path and then it just doesn't feel congruent, then it's just going to leave you unhappy in the end, even if it's technically right. So the best thing to do is to follow the path that feels congruent. So with the older generation, it's just as you say. Yeah, they make a lot of money, then they focus on their legacy, and many of them find contentment in that. But for the younger generation, because right now, we've entered a new era of human consciousness. And so the quality of the new time is influencing our minds and our bodies in a way that we have a very different generation from before. And so the problem appears when that older generation is trying to impose their views on the younger one, because they're not actually quite compatible and it doesn't make sense. And it's really hard for people, because when you think about it, if you're just young and someone with decades of experience is telling you what are the best practices, and not just that, but for generations prior, you had people doing things a certain way that worked for them, and you're just there saying like, oh no, it's not going to work for me. That feels like such an ego trip. But really, you should follow what your heart tells you, even if it goes against the grain. And so right now, in our new generation, what happens is there is a lot of people being born with a very different mindset. And for them, the old way not only doesn't work, it actually damages them and brings them down. It makes them feel depressed and like life makes no sense. So I would say, well, go and explore, but ultimately go with what feels aligned. And for this generation, the most aligned thing is to have your legacy and your purpose put first. And as I think it was Napoleon Hill who said, if you give the universe Brian Tracy, if you give the universe or other people what they want, you can have anything you want. So the more you serve, the more the universe rewards you. And this is the pattern of the new time. So people from the older eras, older generations would not understand that, and it's fine. But for the people of the new times, it's important to understand that right now everything is changing. Like, look at the financial world, look at the social world. There are so many changes that are completely different from the world even 50 years ago. So we need to understand that with self-development, it's like that as well. We can't use the old patterns anymore, because right now they will stop working. So right now it's about thinking who you want to be to serve the world greatly, and take it from there.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think people will overcompensate, especially, guys in their 20s, entrepreneurs in their 20s, 30s, getting started in their journey. Well, they can just overcompensate with hustling.
Yes.
And pushing and grinding. And why is that not the answer? And where is a better way that day to day they can get faster to their goals with less effort and less time?
Self-development.
self-development.
But self-development done right, because right now in our times, especially for the guys, there are so many things that are blatantly wrong with self-development that push guys away from their masculine core and make them more effeminate. And it's really sneaky, and it's not something that people talk about. So focus on self-development that makes you stronger as a man, that makes you more unstoppable, and not in an edgy, say, alpha or even sigma way, because they are both too much. And you see, when you are too intense, when you have to puff up to prove your point, it means that you are overcompensating. It means that the truth is not there. Think about it, how people who are truly powerful, and they know it, they are always calm and composed and relaxed because they don't have anything to prove. And people who are too much, too intense, they're compensating for the lack of true power. So when you see someone like that teaching, it means that they haven't achieved their own goals yet. And I would say choose a teacher who resonates with you truly and who gives you basically more life in a life. This is an interesting concept, but some spiritual sources talk about it. We drift through our life, mostly moonwalking, sleepwalking, half alive, really. And so the ultimate goal is to become more you, more present, embody your power, become more alive. And you can imagine that from this perspective, you're going to serve your business, your clients a lot better. Because imagine someone who is sleepwalking and someone who is fully present, fully there, with you in the moment. Your impact magnifies from there, and your business impact as well, because you see, it's like being, say, partially blind or colorblind, and you don't know what you don't know. So when the mind is not fully awake and fully alive, you are actually missing so many opportunities without realizing, and it's tragic. I see people doing it all the time in their relationships, in their business. Like, there are lots of doors, say, to wealth, fame, impact, open right in front of you, but you don't see them. You literally don't see them, even though they're wide open. And so if you do self-development right, it gives you the ability to see more of those doors and using more of those opportunities, and obviously take your business to a new level a lot faster.
It seems like the better path than what a lot of people are currently on. And I think as people are becoming more familiar with, they try these new and different concepts, like, wow, that actually didn't take as much time. I didn't have to, hustle as much. I work with a lot of people and a lot of guys who are just burning the candles for both ends. They're using way more energy than they need to. They're sacrificing their sleep. And you could tell inside of them, there's that spark in their eye, and they're capable of so much more.
Yeah.
They just can't see, and it's like they're behind this glass wall.
Yes.
So it seems like that's the way they can go. And what would you say would be a good list of criteria to know that they're on the right path? Is that waking up, being excited, being in flow? Is it like their perception of time? Does it go by more quickly because, you get lost in the moment when you're having fun, that they say sometimes? But, what could be a good criteria when people know that they are on the right path?
Sure, I like this question. So you do wake up more excited and raring to go. You actually want to do something, so you don't need to feel motivated externally. You don't need so much external accountability, because you just love it. You want to do it. You are inspired from within. But there is another feeling, that feeling of aliveness that I spoke about. And it's subtle, but it's really noticeable once it gets switched on. And suddenly the world just becomes richer, the colors become brighter, and you just feel more aliveness in you. And with that, the more aligned you are with your purpose, there is a very interesting feeling. It's similar to the Sanskrit word turiya, the fourth state, where you feel the underlying peace, and it feels happy, but it's not the ha-ha kind of joy and happiness. that state is the underlying background of just confident, peaceful happiness that runs at the background of your thoughts. And that feeling replaces what most people have running in the background, because whenever you're interacting with someone, you can notice that usually the background of their thoughts is actually negative. They actually are depressed, frustrated, they don't believe in what they do, they don't really appreciate who they are as a person. And we have lots of thoughts, thousands of thoughts every day, and most of those thoughts actually repetitive, recycled from the day before, and those thoughts are negative. So if you do your self-development right, what will happen is that that negative backdrop that people regularly have, they don't even notice it because it's almost like it's always been there. But it gets replaced with that calm, peaceful confidence and happiness that it's like a background sound.
I think that's great. And I think a lot of people don't pursue opportunities. You think of how many people experience a negative emotion, then just don't pursue something. It could be self-sabotage, procrastination, fear, going for like the sales call close. Like as an entrepreneur, there's so many certain situations that if you just didn't have these negative weeds pulling you down,
yes,
you would be able to attain those opportunities. Because truly, to get to what you want, it's point A, point B in a straight line, not going up and down and all around. But like you said, people put so much more effort than they need to on their body and on their mind that ultimately burns them out.
Self-development is never a straight line. It's always a trial and error. But if you're using a good blueprint, it's going to minimize the amount of error and maximize the amount of things done right. So it speeds up the journey massively with the right mentor. And conversely, if someone picks up the wrong mentor, this is actually something that I've seen with a lot of guys where they say, oh yeah, well, I'm into self-development, I have this mentor, and they're not the right mentor for them. But they don't even second guess that, because they think that, okay, having a mentor, check. So like that's done. And they don't look deeply, because as I said, the question to ask yourself is whether training with that person makes you feel stronger, happier, more alive, and whether opportunities start coming your way. Because if that's not the case, it would be good to look around for someone more aligned.
And a good canary in the coal mine is to see if things are going in your favor or if things are not going in your favor. That is a sign that you're on your purpose or not so much on your purpose. Could you expand a little bit on that?
Well, Orwell said that the world makes a path for the man who knows where he's going. And so once you become grounded and aligned within you and eliminate the inner blockages that are holding you back, opportunities start coming your way naturally. This is because, you see, if you think of the universe as just different energy flows, like rivers of energy, and as you observe water, you may notice that water always looks for the path of the least resistance, for the optimal path. So if you watch a stream in a forest, you will see how it always looks for the best way to go wherever it wants to go. And energy in the universe acts the same way. So the reason why we have more pain and struggle in our lives than we could have is because we have those internal inhibitions, limitations, limiting beliefs that are actually pushing good things away from us. And it's very real. So once you train with someone who is aligned and you get ready to disassemble those limiting beliefs and those traumas that are pushing away the good stuff, the opportunities and the right people out of your life, then naturally, once the blockage is gone, the river flows uninterrupted. And so the flow of the universe that is naturally aligned to bring you all the good things is now coming your way. And so the more blockages you remove from that river, the more fully it comes to you and the more things it brings. So this is how it works. And you see, manifestation is not actually passive like some people think. Some people, actually, it's interesting because some people say, okay, so manifestation is just like sitting, meditating, envisioning your ideal reality, and then it should come to you. And some people say, well, screw that, you just take action, plenty of action, and that it will work. Well, neither of these extreme approaches works by itself, because if you just take lots of misaligned and pointless action, you're just going to burn yourself out, and that's it. But if you just meditate on the couch and don't take any action, don't use the opportunities that the universe sends you, that is not optimal as well. And so the combination of both is how we are supposed to function. So first, you look into your mind, you see what's happening there. What kind of traumas, limiting beliefs, inhibitions are blocking you from living your best life and becoming who you were truly called to be. And from that place, you actually start seeing clearer. You get more clarity on what kind of actions you need to take to generate the best return on investment. So from your effort, comparing your effort to the result, what are the best actions for you to take? Because not all actions are created equal. So you want to be more mindful with your time and energy investment, but you need that clarity to be mindful first. So this is how this process works.
And what are some tools and strategies that entrepreneurs can use just day to day to allow them to achieve these states, these results, and everything that we talked about in their life?
Well, everyone is different. So there isn't one specific thing that absolutely everyone does, except I would say meditation and self-inquiry. Okay. So if you don't have a teacher, then the best way to do it on your own is to start from extreme self-inquiry, where you go through a day actually watching yourself like a researcher or a spy. And whenever you respond a certain way, ask yourself, why do I respond that way? When you feel something, ask yourself, why do I feel something, really? And I have a mini program called RA Morning Routine that incorporates stretches and meditation as well. So I would recommend that.
That's great. And how about people trying to find their purpose? And is there a specific checklist or anything that people can go through to try and find what is their purpose? I'm working this 9 to 5 where I'm starting this business, but why, how, who, what, where, when, and to put that within a container. Do you have any tools that can help?
Yes, I do. So people can go on my website, newerasuperhero.com, and if you scroll right till the end, you will see a checklist that you can download for free. It's 35 questions, and it's going to give you massive clarity on what it is your soul, not your ego, your soul wants to do, and why you do certain things the way you do. So it's going to give you a better understanding of yourself as a person, and by extension of what your greatest service to the world can be.
Great. So it seems like between that purpose audit as well as the area meditation routine, that is a great start that people can just start implementing baby steps in the right direction and go up and up from there.
I would say, just as every spiritual teacher said throughout the centuries, your best progress is done with the right teacher. There is no way to bypass that. Working on your own is a very long and strenuous path. But if you can't find the right teacher, then this is a good place to start, or you can talk to me.
Well, thank you so much, Jay. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and insight today. I'm sure a lot of our listeners did as well. And we'll be back on the next one. Thanks again.
My pleasure.